Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. So two things before I really get into this, or three things, I guess. One, yes, I know this isn't too new of an archetype. We saw it back in set 1, so I'll just kind of talk at it from a high level. And there is going to be some games if you want to watch that. But I finally hit Masters, so we can go back to making videos again. So I wanted to at least talk about this one and why it did so well for me. But the two things I want to mention, right? So one, I'm really starting to realize I'm kind of more of the like dad legend meme, as it were, from Hearthstone, because I work full time. I often work the weekends, and that's why it took me so long to hit Masters. Because you just need to sit down and play. And I talk about this a lot in the official Discord, or in my own Discord, I guess. And a lot of other people who are playing Runeterra will tell you that, right? It's something that if you want to consistently climb, it's usually not something that you can just sit down, play your deck, and go for a couple hours, right? You need to keep on keeping on and making sure you're just playing for these longer sessions and, you know, getting multiple win streaks stacked up where you're finally able to climb. So that's why I really struggled for so long, because as I was, you know, kind of tweeting out, and I have the Mobilytics data to prove it, this past week, so of course I'm recording this on Sunday, so I guess a week ago now, but as I was playing these matches, I saw 5 very different meta games in the Diamond ladder. Now again, keep in mind this is going to be late night, North America East time frame, so there's going to be a couple different factors here, but it makes it really difficult because you can't just play one deck consistently and climb, because it might not always have the good matchups, or the meta might be shifting. You need to really change your deck or think about other strategies you should be playing. And that's going to bring up to my third point, which I'm just going to have the screenshot over here to the side. I'm going to link the comment itself down below. But I am so happy somebody from Riot finally chimed in on this topic. It's something I've been very passionate about and talking about quite at length for the past 2+ months, or however long we've been in this meta with Rising Tides, that is. There is a larger issue going on with, and again, as the person from Riot says in the comments, this isn't meant to be at Swim, Mogwai, BBG, Alon's, any of them, right? It's not against them. It's just an overall issue with the meta. We only get to see whatever those various and other various streamers, obviously, that have like 1,000+ views, whatever they're playing, that's going to take up a large portion of the meta and have this kind of biased look. And on top of that, the recall bias, which is the second point they make, when you're going up against your own ladder experiences, right? Let's say Mogwai or Swim, again, whoever, they just did this list I'm going to cover in today's video, and you run up against a couple times, like, oh man, I can't believe it, you know, Swim is really ruining the meta, and, you know, how could he do this? And this is something that we've seen previously, and I've talked about this in a video when he pushed the Rally Elusives list, right? When that was like the tier 1, or tier 0, sorry, climbed to the last bit of Masters. It just auto-folded to Draven Spider aggro. Like, it was a 90-10 matchup. So that's kind of more the reason why I talked about just the point before that. You really do have to adapt to the meta and understand what are good and bad matchups. And I think the other thing I'm going to do this week for a video, now that, again, I finally have time to create content, is go through the Mobilytics data, which, again, is biased. I've talked about this at length before, but it still has some unique nuggets of information you can get, and talk about what parts of it are good and what you should be focusing on, and other areas you need to avoid. I've been kind of putting it off because there's a major patch next week, so the meta is obviously going to shift, but I think it's important enough to have the discussions where I don't mind investing that time and making a video, and hopefully it's going to be a lot more educational than just being like, hey, here's the meta, here's what you should play, right? Like, you know, typically other videos will do. But hopefully in the future, I'll get back to other more meta-focused videos, as it were. So today, we are going to be talking about a Ashe mid-range list. And it's funny because so many people wanted you to believe that mid-range is dead, right? If you think back to, you know, no surprise, a week ago, people were saying, oh, it's only aggro or it's only control. This is the worst meta ever. And now I'll pause right there. Yes, this is not the best meta we've had. We've certainly had better deck diversity. And what I mean by that in particular is that the play patterns were heavily similar between Crimson and Imperialist, and that's why a lot of the decks kind of felt samey. But if you look at the meta now and how it's been shifting, and even with Elusives coming back in, it doesn't quite have that same problem anymore, and Braum and the Swain decks are starting to fall off, so that's one of the issues of deck diversity not really feeling diverse, because it was still using the Crimson and Imperialist package. So that's finally kind of shaking out, and we're getting more into this well-established, you know, archetype trio where Bannerman mid-range is coming back, right? And that has a very strong matchup against Karma Ezreal, which is also on the rise. So I get it. Look, it is super frustrating if you've been playing, or I should say, if this is like your first look into Runeterra, maybe you've only been playing for a couple weeks. You think, man, everybody is saying this meta sucks. I'm struggling to find what I want to do in it. you just got to hang on. And the thing I always say, it's okay to take a break. If you don't like the meta, there's nothing wrong with just stopping. Maybe log in, do your quest, go up against AI, because that's always free, right? Do your daily quest, get your free XP, and then just take a break. But still make sure that you're working towards your weekly vault, because you get so many resources for free. And it helps you going on to set 3, right? We are 5 weeks or 6 weeks away from set 3, whatever it is. And, you know, that's basically 5 or 6 free champions that you should be working your way towards right before the set comes out. So there's a very long-winded way to say that, you know, we don't really have the best look at the meta because we don't have the full data, and it shifts so frequently. And what I've noticed, at least based on Mobalytics data, which again, it's biased, but it's the best we got, that about every week it does cycle, but we've certainly seen cases where it shifts every 3 to 4 days even, where, you know, Noxus Harrowing is going to be really, really good, and it's still the best tier 1 deck in my opinion right now, but it could completely fall off by the time the big patch comes around next week, which it should, because that's one of the things that they said they're focusing on. But, you know, we think about, like Sejuani Misfortune, probably a better example. That's disappeared. It's gone, and a lot of people hated it, and it is partially the pilfered goods, but I think there's some other reasoning behind that, right? Because they weren't all the heavy bilge water variant. Getting distracted, we'll get back on topic now and just talk about this, but right, please understand, it's okay to take a break. The meta is going to shift quite a bit, and if you want to take 1 to 2 weeks off, great. Go play Teamfight Tactics. That's what I've been wanting to spend some more time on, haven't had a chance, or just any game that you're enjoying, right? There's so many good games that are out right now. You shouldn't feel guilty by getting to enjoy them. So I hopefully have ranted on that long enough, but let's talk about what I got Masters with, and it feels pretty good. I really enjoy this because it's been a season 1, or I should say pre-launch, whatever. Season 1, I did it with Frost Ezreal, which was really fun. That was when Elnuks were insane. Season 2, I did it with They Who Endures before anyone really caught on to that, and that's all credit to Alessio, because he told me to play the deck, and it was a sleeper hit. I went on a 15 win streak to Masters, insane. And then with this one, I went on a 8 or 9 win streak. I probably should go look, I forget. 7, 8, or 9 win streak to Masters once I finally found a groove with this. And I really like this list in the current meta. I still would say it's like a solid high tier 2, because if you go against Karma or Heimerdinger players, which is, you know, starting to pick up in the meta, that are actually good, it's a really rough matchup to win. That said, I farmed some very questionable plays that Heimerdinger and Karma players were making, and it allowed me to win the game. That's something else that needs to be said, right? Unless you're in like the top 50 of Masters, or even just sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes the answer is playing to your opponent making a mistake, or thinking about how you can punish them for making a particular play, so that these, you know, what people perceive to be 90-10 matchups aren't necessarily that bad. And I think this one is like 40-60 based on the data, and even that, I'd say it's probably closer to like 45-55, because against, like, I think the average player playing both of these, the Freljord deck certainly lends to itself a favor, because we have one of my favorite cards of all time, the Hearthguard. And I can't stress enough, in terms of like an overall mulligan plan, so that's probably something I should talk about as well, right? General mulligans, you're always going to be looking for Omen Hawk and Hearthguard. It's a beast of a card on 5. The fact that it boosts your entire deck by +1/+1. Generally, the way that you're going to win, especially against like Braum and Nivea decks, is you find at least one of these, hopefully 2, and you just save a bunch of your 2 and 3 drops, right, for later in the game. So you force them to Ruination. They spend all their mana. Maybe they have a Vile Feast left after that, but it's irrelevant because all your stuff got boosted. And then you just go like Drummer, Glory Seeker, Wolf, right, or whatever the mana comes out to be. And then like, okay, open swing, you're dead because you're already at like 7. And like, what do? You have Vengeance plus like a Grasp if maybe you banked your spell mana. That's usually not enough. So that's like a free way to win, and probably something that a lot of people don't consider when playing this deck, right? You think about, okay, Glory Seeker, I always want to get down early, want to threaten a unit off the board, but if you know that you're going against a more heavy control type of deck, sometimes this just attacking for 5 is insane. And then the other key part, which I think really is undervalued by a lot of the other similar lists I've been seeing going around, is Trifarian Assessor. When you get to play this deck and draw 4 or 5, however many cards off this, I think typically it's like 2 to 3, but there was 2 games where I remember it was like 4+. It's like, how do you lose at that point, right? Especially against the control decks who, you know, they're trying to do like Mystic Shot or Will of Ionia, which isn't going to be all that effective, especially if you're playing like multiple Glory Seekers. And then keeping in mind, if this gets buffed by Hearthguard, it will count itself. So it's super easy to get like a draw 3 off this card. And it's like, all right, cool, like, yeah, your Ezreal's at like 6 of 8, but I have a massive board. I'm going to draw a whole bunch more cards. What are you going to do about it, right? So I think this deck has a bit more, you know, reach to it in the sense of just like the card value engine is so good that I think it is a very, very high tier 2 deck that, obviously, again, this was a meta call, something I talked about at the beginning of the video, that I made a meta call. It was right, and I just free farmed my way from basically the bottom of, I think it was like D4 and 40, whatever it was when I switched, and climbed all the way up, had a great time. And again, I went like a 7, 8, or 9 win streak in the final push, and it just goes to show how powerful it is. Now, the other thing I want to mention, which this should be a very obvious, you know, kind of combo as it were, but, you know, some of the plays that you need to consider, be it Brittle Steel, be it Icefield Archer, or be it Harsh Winds, is Calling Strike is just a bloody good card, right? If we think about decks that are going to be like the Vimer deck, right? If you think about Vi, she's going to want to get to like that 10 power very quickly, and not always, but there are board scenarios where you can set up to force your opponent to burn a lot of resources, get their mana really, really low, and then you just do like Archer plus Calling Strike, and their Vi is dead, right? So keeping in mind, it's 3 or less, so the Archer is going to put it to 0, and then the Twin will save it because she gets +1 again, and then goes back up. So you do have to be careful about that, but if they only have, like, you know, Mystic Shot mana, because that's what they're trying to keep up, you're going to be able to punish it with them. And the same thing with Heimerdinger. A lot of the ways that I've won, and again, I don't think it should have been that positive, but I had a very aggressive board. My opponent played Heimerdinger. They had very low spell mana because they were trying to be a very heavy control deck in the matchup. And I just waited for them to play like a Mystic Shot, and then I Calling Strike their Heimer, and they're like, oh, well, crap, now I don't have enough mana. So that's what I mentioned earlier, is I don't think a high level, you know, top 50 on any shard Heimerdinger player will make that mistake, but it's something that you're not often thinking about as a Heimerdinger player unless you've seen this matchup a lot, right? It's very easy to bait Heimerdinger players to making a wrong play, and that's kind of, you know, the heart of it, or in all card games, right? Baiting out the removal or baiting out X spell, right? Any card game, that's always been a statement that's held true, and I think really plays its strength to this list in particular. The other thing that I'll kind of mention here, at least in terms of, you know, good card package, but something I have very, very mixed feelings about in this list, is Battling. Obviously, it's very good because it's a 4-drop 3/3. Often it can get buffed later on to be a 4/4, which is like that sweet spot because it dodges a bunch of removal, but it just finds you an extra card. But if you think about it, right, so it can find Ashe, it can find Hearthguard, it can find Sejuani, and then once it's buffed, Assessor. So oftentimes I found myself wanting to play this and be like, man, really hope I hit Assessor, and the odds just aren't in your favor, right? Realistically, most of the time, you're going to hit one of the other cards than just solely focusing on it. But it's important that it draws you another card to come back to your hand so you can have that steady stream of pressure against your opponent. And then obviously, if you hit Hearthguard with it, that's kind of where you want to be anyways. So the other, that's like a typical Freljord Noxus like core package, but I think one that a lot of people are not necessarily familiar with, right, is going to be the Legion Drummer. So this goes back to set 1 meta, like very early on, and I think I actually did an archetype video on this, or I did a meta report where I talked about this at length, but it's basically Legion Drummer plus either your Wolf or Glory Seeker. You give it first strike, and I mean, just Legion Drummer and Glory Seeker is an insane combo, right? So that's where keeping your elixirs are going to come in hand, so it can dodge that, you know, Mystic Shot that they might be saving. You know, it's kind of difficult to keep this alive, but if you Omen Hawk into it, I mean, man, it's going to feel absolutely great every single time that you're able to save it and kill one of the units. And maybe you have like that plus a Brittle Steel, right? There's quite a few different plays like that you can ultimately make. But really, that's kind of the heart of it. The only thing that was really worth mentioning, because the rest of it should be pretty straightforward from what we've seen, is just the Calling Strike. You know, one of the better plays or turns that I had when I was ranking up with this is I had Harsh Winds into double Calling Strike on my opponent's Leviathan and Swain, right? And they basically just auto scooped. Obviously, you wait for them to get their spell mana. They played a bunch of stuff, and I just punished them for it, right? So I think they used like a fervor in response. So yeah, they got the stun, but I killed their Braum Leviathan, so that seems fine. So the other thing I know a lot of people are going to be crap for if I don't mention it. So this is the other card that's getting played a lot, right? Like on paper, you think a one drop 5/5 Yeti is great. I really don't like this card, or Reckoning, because Reckoning is just weird in this meta right now. It's a super niche meta call right now, so don't play Reckoning either, unless you're seeing a lot of decks that would be good against. If you're seeing a lot of Demacia, but you farm Demacia anyways with this list, so I don't know. It's getting sidetracked. This card I really don't like. So it's great that it gives you a 3-drop 3/3. So the body is important, and then you get a Yeti off it. What I don't like about the Yeti is that it's going to decrease your chances, or, you know, it's going to stall out, I guess is probably the better wording here, your assessor draw. So in the mirror, and how I won every bloody time is just playing this card, right? They had Yetis, but it's not that big of a deal because you can just chump block it, then brittle steel for the up value, and then we have a better assessor, or more often of them, right? We have a better way to interact with them, right? Especially if Glory Singer's pressuring their board. It just comes down to who gets the better value off assessor. And in the mirror, I think I was like 4-1 or 5-1, whatever it was. And it didn't feel close. Like the Yetis going on top felt like it did a lot more harm than good. And, you know, you might say, well, maybe that gives you like a couple extra percentage points against Noxus Harrowing. Sure, I guess. You know, I haven't seen a lot of Noxus Harrowing this past like 6 days of grinding that I've been doing, so I'm not gonna go on that route. If I'm gonna be playing this list on stream tomorrow, or I guess today when you're watching this, and I'm gonna climb up to Masters, so that's kind of the last thing I want to. I know this video is being a lot longer, and I'll still gonna include a game. The last thing I want to mention is we are getting in towards the end of the season, so the meta is kind of other than the patch that's dropping next week, right? The meta is more or less established at this point, so. I've been top 100 the past 2 seasons, so I'm still going to go for top 100 in this meta. And I will be playing this because I think it's very well positioned. It's what I've been climbing with. But content might be light, other than hopefully spoiler season is starting soon. So again, the thing I want to mention is that I am very much like the dad legend meme, as it were, right? I work full time, often work on the weekends. I try to put out content and stream when I can, but you know, at least compared to just any other streamer, any other content creator, I definitely have the least amount of hours available to me, so that can harm both my ladder time and or the content creation time. So I really am trying to do my best in terms of what other content that I'm getting out there. So I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to keep putting it out there. I'm going to try to keep up to date with it. But again, at least from a, you know, where's my focus? Streaming is the most important thing to me, because I like doing it after work during the week. It's just an easy way to relax and not feel as, you know, constrained with my week. So that's enough rambling. This is our Ashe Sejuani, and again, the list just worked bloody great for me. Again, final notes is your general mulligan is going to be Hearthguard and Omen Hawk pretty much every single game, and then beyond that, obviously, it's going to come down to, you know, what matchups you might be expecting. And I know some people are looking for some crazy breakthrough. It's like, how do I beat Noxus Harrowing every time? It's not something that I have like immediately look for these cards, right? Like, you have so much Frostbite. Obviously, Ice Veil Archer is good for stopping their ballista turn. And then in a pinch, you can use it to, if you get really lucky, right, block their Basilisk Rider if it doesn't have Overwhelm. Stuff like that. But generally, in my experience with it, it comes down to, did they hit the Harrowing or not? Just naturally playing out this deck, if they hit the Harrowing, they win, right? So that's where it can be frustrating. And I think that's where some people might say, oh, but if you have the Reckoning, you can win. Not really, because if they get the double Legion Grenadiers back, that's usually what you're dying to. At that point, it doesn't matter, right, that they got back the Basilisk, or double Basilisk even, right? It's like, crap, there's those 2 Grenadiers on the end. No matter what, I just die. Cool, right? Because you could have Frost or other things for the other cards. So that's where a lot of that struggle comes in. And that's where I'll say, right, if you're expecting to see a lot of aggro decks, or heaven forbid PNZ Burn, which just absolutely crushes this deck, ever comes back, put in Tavern Keepers, right? That's the most obvious inclusion that you can make. What would I take out? I mean, that's kind of a, you know, maybe a Babbling comes out and some other cards. You might make a 1 or 2 Z cuts type of thing, but otherwise it can be pretty rough even with the Tavern Keeper. So with that, I'm going to just throw in a game randomly from the stream. So sorry that there's like music and talking chat and all that stuff, but I'm just going to pick whichever one looked good, right, from a quick scan and include it at the end of the day. So thank you so much, as always, for hanging around. If you've been enjoying these videos, please make sure to like and subscribe. That does help us get out other content, because, again, I am, you know, on TLG and trying to do some other stuff for them, and be it like deck reviews and stuff like that. So hopefully everyone's been enjoying that. We can talk about what else is coming up soon. But otherwise, hey, I'm going to keep trying to put out videos for y'all. I hope, you know, that you've been enjoying them, you find them informational. And then this week, on probably Wednesday, I'm going to do more of like a Mobalytics educational breakdown video. So if that's something you're looking forward to, hey, make sure to subscribe so you can see it. But with that, have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Monday, and I'll see you next time. Cheers. I really don't want to take a break when we've been climbing, but... Alright, so we just want Hearthguards and Omen Hawks in this matchup. I feel like Sejuani's still a greedy keep. I guess 1 century's fine. Nice. Nice. There we go.
I guess we should have, that might have been a mistake. I probably should have valued the culling strikes more, now that I say that. The last game I won because I had the, like, triple Hearthguard. But we're gonna need the culling strikes. It's probably gonna be more relevant.
I'll try anyone more. I love a taste of the action.
Alright, something good. That awkwardly survives for us. They probably don't have anything on 3 that matters. I definitely want to get that off the board before they get multiple,
Sharpen the blades.
multiple values with transfusions and stuff. This is probably a little greedy. But this is also, like, a really strong enabler for, swaying, don't forget. The bane of my existence.
My turn.
I really like the deck thinning here. Like, this is a 4/4, so it's already big enough.
Will no one listen?
Gross. And our next turn, we're gonna be playing the Hearthguard anyways.
A chill in the air.
I couldn't tell you, but you know, it's been our luck. All right, so here's a culling strike then. Sure. Assessor is a really big pickup for us here.
Many tribes under one banner.
For the Empire. You.
Damage is damage.
Today we fight.
They might have like a flock here, right? But we wanna try to at least force the board a little bit. Sage tech, thank you so much for the follow as well. If it's like double flock here, I'm just gonna cry. Like, there's nothing else I can do about that. I mean, I feel pretty good with the amount of cards we should be able to draw here.
Oh, I can't wait.
That looks like some bait. So we can do this plus Brittle plus Ashe into Assessor next turn.
Nothing escapes my watch.
Like, I guess this is Braum mono would be annoying, but... Oh, I don't expect them to have that.
Faster than my arrow? I think not.
I definitely think a draw to an attack here is fine. Just to start getting some better pressure sent over to our opponent's side. Start working on leveling up Ashe as well. And I guess if they have the removal for this, then we play the Sejuani first.
Winter take you.
Oh, you have another one, eh? Gross. I mean, they're going down to 2 cards, I guess.
Arrows at the ready.
Oh, no, you're just gonna swing here? Do they just have the transfusion, or are they just trying to...
Ready the torches. On the doors.
I guess it doesn't matter. The transfusion gives them the health either way, but I think we still have to respect it and take the blocks here.
Stand and defend.
Yeah, the metagame changing as much as it has really given me hell this week. Oh shit, they have Fury of the North as well, I forgot about. Yeah, that'll do it. That's pretty bad for us. Oh, there we go. Well, this is more of what we want to see anyways. More big bodies. Our opponent only has 2 cards, and we're going to get to draw a bunch on the next turn. We could just pass, but that feels lame. And we have an Ashe freeze if absolutely necessary.
Up there in the mountains!
As the arrow flies.
Yep. So they drew... Wait, your Swain's not buffed or anything, though. And we don't want them to have, like, a flock here, so we... Okay.
The time is right. Strike now.
We take 2 damage, so that sucks, but... We keep our Ashe. Wait, so what do they have? I guess they have their own hard cards, then? Do they have in their deck with this? Whew.
Deploying!
Oh, I'm an idiot, yeah. The bloody frickin' Leviathan. Oh, that's rough. That is rough. So they play the Swain next turn?
You earn the right to call themselves Trifarian.
Alright, so we're gonna play Sejuani and Fury, which is 10.
The world awaits! Forward!
Darken the skies!
Crap. Well, it's gonna Frostbite. Or no, because Ashe is gonna Frostbite this Swain if they try to play it, right? So I guess that does work out for us. And we can give somebody first strike.
Carved from the savage soul.
Empire above all! By my hand, Noxus rise. Grand General!
The only problem is, like, this has the... do we force that? I think we have to force that out, right? Like, the Leviathan and Swain combo is just gonna beat the shit out of us no matter what we do. So, if that's our plan, we do want to give it Overwhelm.
To victory!
Avarosans, stand together.
The calm before the storm.
Or wait a minute, I'm an idiot. Neither one can block then, right? So they have to, like, block... Hold on, they're at 13? So, block here. I'm not. I'm an idiot. I just figured it out. I forgot she was one way to level up.
My aim
Sorry.
is true.
I appreciate the support. It's been rough though. And nothing's damaged, so it's not a flock.
Enough stalling.
All right.